What if an investigation that starts with a single line of malicious code ends with finding a tiny physical chip secretly implanted on a circuit board? It sounds like something out of a spy movie, right? But the lines between cyber and physical threats, well, they're not just blurring, they're basically gone. Modern dangers live in that gray area, and proving what's actually real has become the biggest challenge of all.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Where does a digital crime end and a physical one begin? When a critical server goes down, is it just a bad component, or is it a sophisticated, targeted cyber attack that caused it to fry? To find the truth, you need a totally new way of investigating, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into today with a company called TKOR Research.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with what's called the cyber-physical gap, this dangerous blind spot where all the modern threats seem to be hiding. Then we'll check out the new kind of investigation built to close that gap. After that, we'll get into the core philosophy, something called the atomic unit of proof, before we dig into the 3 powerful pieces of tech that make it all happen. And finally, we'll see why all of this really, really matters in the real world.
So let's just jump right into the heart of the problem. You see, the way we've traditionally investigated things has this massive blind spot. Our methods are built for threats that are either digital or physical. But what in the world do you do when a threat is both at the exact same time? This right here shows you the problem perfectly. The security world is basically split in two. You've got your cybersecurity experts who are geniuses with code and networks, but they could totally miss a physical chip implant. And on the other side, you've got physical labs that can put hardware under a microscope, but they have no idea how to analyze the complex malware running on it. Each side is only seeing half of the puzzle, and that creates this huge gap where the real danger is lurking. And that gap, that blind spot, is exactly where TKOR Research comes in. They're a specialized consultancy that was designed from the ground up to operate right in that messy middle ground. They're built to see the entire picture. So TKOR Research works at what they call the cyber-physical nexus. And we're talking about a serious background here. It's led by Kevin O'Connor, a former specialist from the NSA. The whole idea is to take what are usually 2 totally separate fields, digital forensics and physical hardware analysis, and smash them together into one unified process. This gives them this unique perspective that lets them see everything from the actual physical atoms of a microchip, all the way to the digital bits of code that are running on it. Now, before we get into the really cool tech, we've got to wrap our heads around the philosophy that makes it all work. It all starts with this core idea that completely changes what we think of as evidence. They call it the artifact object, and here's the best way to think about it. Normal evidence is kind of like a photograph with no context. An artifact object, on the other hand, is like getting the photo, the specific camera that took it, all the photographer's notes, and a tamper-proof digital seal all locked together in one box. It's the evidence plus its entire life story, all bundled together into one verifiable unit of proof that you can't tear apart. And every single one of these artifact objects is built on 3 key things. The 3 C's. First, you have content. That's the evidence itself, like a piece of code or a physical gadget. Second is context. That's the whole story of how it was collected, every tool that was used, every single thing the analyst did. And third, you've got control. This is the unbreakable digital lock, using cryptography to prove nothing's been tampered with and to track its chain of custody. The bottom line, it's like a 3-legged stool. You take away any one of those C's, and the whole structure of proof just collapses.
Okay, so that's the what. How do they actually manage these artifact objects and guarantee that they're legit? Well, it all comes down to 3 proprietary systems that are all interconnected. And these systems have some pretty cool names: Oasis, Terre, and Helix. You can think of them as the lab, the brain, and the all-seeing guardian of the whole process. Each one plays a critical, synchronized role. This gives us a really great snapshot. Oasis is the hands-on protocol for the physical lab. TAR is the digital brain that watches everything and creates that unbreakable chain of custody. And Helix is like the environmental witness, making sure the lab space itself is totally clean. All right, let's break each one down. First up, Oasis. This isn't just a lab, it's a super strict playbook for handling physical stuff. It all starts with locking down the object and giving it a unique digital fingerprint. Then it gets scanned for anything weird, rogue radio signals, strange heat signatures, anything that screams tampering. From there, it goes under a microscope for a deep dive at the silicon level before any data is carefully pulled off. And every single step is locked, creating a sealed, unchangeable record that's designed to be absolutely bulletproof in court. Next up is Terre.
and this is the digital brain of the whole operation. I love how they describe it as the conscience of the investigation. It's this AI-assisted system that's basically looking over the analyst's shoulder, recording every single action, every command typed, every tool used, every file opened. It then bundles all those actions into a digital ledger that's sealed with cryptography. This means it's mathematically impossible for anyone to go back and change the record without getting caught. The result is a perfect, unbreakable timeline of the entire investigation. Okay, so you've secured the evidence, you're tracking every digital move, but what about the room itself, right? How do you prove that the environment where all this is happening is clean? Well, that's where Helix comes in. Think of Helix as this invisible, high-tech web of sensors that blankets the entire lab. It's like a silent guardian, and it's constantly measuring everything. Radio frequencies in the air, tiny thermal changes, sounds, even the chemical makeup of the room. This constant fire hose of data creates a verifiable record that proves without a doubt that the lab environment was pristine and that absolutely nothing from the outside world was interfering with the investigation. And this is the secret sauce. This is where it all clicks together so perfectly. For every single action the analyst takes, which Terra is recording, Helix adds an environmental snapshot from that exact millisecond. So you don't just get a log of what the analyst did, you get mathematical proof of the sterile environment in which they did it. It's the ultimate marriage of digital and physical proof, and it makes the entire investigation completely airtight. Okay, so this technology is wild. It's incredibly sophisticated. But the big question is, why? What's the real-world impact? Who on earth needs this insane level of certainty? Well, think about it. Imagine you're a lawyer, and your entire case depends on one single piece of digital evidence. Or you're an insurance company, trying to figure out if a multi-million-dollar claim is legit. We're also talking about corporate boards that have to make massive security decisions, or even high-net-worth individuals who need ironclad proof their personal devices haven't been compromised. In situations like these, probably and pretty sure, just don't cut it. You need to know. And I think this quote from TKOR Research just nails it. Anyone can give you data. That's just raw numbers and facts. But intelligence? That's when that data is woven into a verifiable, trustworthy story that you can actually bet the farm on. When the stakes are that high, you simply cannot afford to guess. So, at the end of the day, what they're delivering isn't just a fancy PDF report with some findings. The real product here is certainty. It's assurance. It's what they call defensible integrity, and it's backed by a completely unbroken, verifiable chain of proof, all the way from atoms to bits.
Which kind of leaves us with a huge question for the world we live in now, doesn't it? As our digital and physical worlds keep crashing into each other, and as AI gets scarily good at creating convincing fakes, the systems we rely on to figure out what's true, well, they're going to become more important than ever. So the question is, how are we going to prove what's truly real?